for coming back and being here. My name is Ren, and I'm really excited to be facilitating part 2 of this backyard herbal medicine series. In case you missed it or forgot it or it's your first time, a little bit about myself. I'm primarily a coastal ecologist, and I've worked mostly in the southeast continental United States. Can everyone hear me? Can I get like a yes? And no, yes. Okay, cool. Mostly been working in the Southeast United States. And then I moved actually to the West Coast for the Urban Automa Fellowship. And this was the first time I was really introduced to herbalism and connecting with plants in more than just like this really rigorous scientific way. And it really opened me up to like more of a spiritual medicine way of like connecting with this like coastal, or not coastal, but just like ecological community around us. And then after the fellowship, I stayed on as a farm hand for a little bit, and that's where I like kind of just learned about what it means to live in reciprocity with the land and make medicine myself. So I've really been finding that this time has been perfect for feeling empowered about my own healthcare through making herbal medicine. So that's sort of like why I wanted to make this course, mostly because like I'm a beginner, I'm still learning. And so I wanted to like help inspire other people to like begin their journeys, but also if you are an expert, welcome, and maybe I'll have something new or interesting or a new take on things. But I would also just love to hear everyone's knowledge just pour in at any time if you have something to add. I am currently calling in from my house in North Oakland, which is on stolen, unceded territory of the Ohlone Chochenyo people. And these are people who have been here for thousands of years, actively tending the land and being in reciprocity with nature. And these are people who deserve to have access to this land, but are currently having to fight for that right. And because herbalism is so directly linked to the land and the plants and just being in touch with nature and being like getting things from it, giving to it, being in reciprocity, it's really important that we keep this thread active in the back of our minds. So I love if we could just everyone put in the chat your name, your pronouns if you want, where you're calling in from, and if you know the original caretakers of the land that you're on currently, if you could put that in the chat also, that'd be great, just so we're calling out and sending gratitude to those people who have made this land what it is today. So I'm just gonna do that real quick to start us all off. Cool, so let's see. Last week, if you're here, we talked mostly about what it means to practice ethical herbalism, how to identify some plants and their medicinal properties, and what you might find in your backyard. And the goal of this class is to help you walk away with some options for herbal remedies and medicine that you might be able to make with the plants that are in your backyard and the ingredients that you already have in your house and the equipment that you already have in your house. Because we don't really want to be going out more than we need to during this time. So this is just sort of like a idea sharing space for what it means to be making herbal medicine. The flow of this class is going to be doing some community building and intros, doing a grounding meditation, doing a quick discussion of harvesting that we talked about a little bit last week, but I'll introduce that in a second. Talking about herbal medicine from a scientific perspective, talking about some easy access medicine making ideas, making an oil together, and then opening the space up for some questions and resource sharing. So we're going to be going over a lot of material, but don't worry too much about writing everything down, because at the end I'm going to share a document that has all of my notes and where I got all this information, so no stress. But I will keep an eye on chats to see if you have any questions at any time. So thank you all for calling in. Malka from Brooklyn, Molly from North Oakland, welcome. Audrey, Sonia is my housemate, thank you for calling in. Roxanne, Nicole, Samantha, thank you all for being here. This is really exciting, and I'm just so grateful that you've all decided to spend this hour with me. So obviously we are on Zoom, and ideally we would be on a farm somewhere making medicine together, and like this would be like a 2-hour cool workshop. But because this is like social isolation and Corona and Zoom, just so we're all on the same page about how like some of the features here work, I'm mostly going to be the one talking and having you all on mute, but we will have some breakout sessions so we can do some group participation. And like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat in case there are any questions. So I really do want to start out with some community building. So we're going to head out into some breakout sessions right now, so you can share your name, your pronouns if you choose, and then maybe a hope for your medicine making practice or something you felt inspired to make recently. And this can be anything from, I want to draw more attention and care to my body, or I hope to find something to sleep at night. So for example, my name is Ren, my pronouns are they, them. And I've been really intrigued by the idea of like bitter herbs from more than just like a passive perspective, like how bitters help our digestive system. So that's been really intriguing to me recently. But now Sasha is going to break us out into breakout groups.
It looks like you put me in breakout group 1, and it looks like you put Ren in a breakout group. You're muted.
Yeah, when I put in the automatic breakout room, it put you guys in separate breakout rooms. So in order to avoid putting you guys with other people.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Oh, Malka is asking for help. I will join that breakout room real quick.
Also, Sasha, can you broadcast a message to all of the breakout rooms reminding them what the prompt was?
Yes. Hold on, I'm going to join this room really quick.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, you're by yourself. Let me put you with someone.
You.
Sorry about that. Hold on a second. All right.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Sasha, did you, there were 2 people, Tessa and then one other person that came back into the meeting and we admitted them. Oh, here they come.
Hi, Tessa.
Hey, Tessa, what's happening?
I don't know. My computer just keeps fucking up, and so sorry.
It's okay.
Thanks for letting me back.
So Sasha, when people trickle in, and Tessa and one other person that just happened to, only the host has the power to put them into a breakout room when they're admitted. And so
yeah, so what happened was Tessa was already in. Hold on.
So for example, this person, we should admit them, say hi to them, and then we can either have the breakout room session with them, or you can put them in another breakout room. But only the host has the power to do that. The co-hosts can't do that.
Okay, I can't just put this person in breakout room 4?
No, you have to admit them and then put them in a breakout room.
Yeah, I got kicked to a breakout room with nobody in it, but that's probably my fault.
Hold on, wait, Hi. Is this Ari?
Hello.
Hey, we're just getting started. Folks are in breakout rooms introducing themselves. I'm going to add you to one right now.
Oh, cool. I've never done that before.
Cool. I'm just going to do it, and a little prompt will come up and say, you're being invited.
Cool.
And then, yeah, so here's another person, Natalie. So again, it's only the co-hosts don't have the power to do this. We can admit people, but we can't. Only the host can put them in breakout rooms. And I'm also wondering if you wrote a message to all the breakout rooms reminding them what the prompt was.
I have not. Can you do that for me while I admit
Only
this?
the hosts can do that, unfortunately.
Great. I will.
I'm just gonna admit Anastasia though, because she can chill with us.
Hi, Natalie. Natalie, folks are in breakout rooms introducing themselves. I'm going to add you to one right now, okay?
And I guess at this point, we should send a message to everybody in the breakout rooms telling them how much time they have left. And again, only the host can do that.
Okay, and it's in broadcast to all,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Mhm.
2 minutes, Ren? 1 minute?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Hi, everyone.
What a cute dog, Tessa.
Thanks. He doesn't love being on camera, but he'll put yeah, he's my folks dog, but it's so nice taking care of a furry friend right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna stop. He's just so awkward. I love him.
So sweet.
He loves pillow piles. Like, he does this thing where he'll just like go to the highest pillow possible. He loves it.
So cute.
All right, I'm going to close these rooms.
Sounds great.
I'll mute myself.
And they'll all close in 60 seconds.
Cool. And just so you know, you can adjust that in the breakout room options. You can adjust how much time they have to come back and whether it happens automatically and all that stuff. So
Cool. Thanks y'all for helping me learn.
Okay.
It's like folks are back.
Hey everyone. Thanks for coming back. I hope that you all made some friends, or maybe you were put in a breakout session with some acquaintances already. But hopefully this really allowed us to warm up to the space and to each other. And so next I want to start by officially opening our container with a small grounding meditation. So hopefully everyone is back right now, but if not, we'll just take a minute to wiggle out your body and get situated in your chair. Maybe this is a moment that you want to get a sip of water. Just really feel comfortable in your body where you are. And maybe once you're ready, you'll take a big deep breath with me. So breathe in, hold it at the top, and breathe out. Take another deep breath in. Hold it at the top. And sigh it all out. And one more deep breath in together. Hold at the top. And relax out. Maybe soften your gaze or close your eyes if you haven't already. And while you're breathing on your own, I want you to feel the air enter your lungs and feel the air brushing against the back of your throat. Let your body relax as you exhale. Let your mind rest. Let your face muscles soften. Extend your awareness to the outside world. Let your mind recreate the world around you. Maybe it's indicative of the space you're in. Maybe it's your own personal Eden. Let your body sink into whatever earth you've created for yourself. Let your sit bones create a taproot that extends into the soil below you. Maybe it has to push its way through your chair, the hardwood floors beneath you, bursting through layers of concrete like roots of a tree on a sidewalk, slow, steady, and powerful. Or maybe it's growing down directly into topsoil, lush with worms and bugs and roots of nearby plant friends. Maybe your root is exchanging resources with the mycelium network around you. But your taproot pushes further through the ground, through hard layers of rock, through porous layers of sand, into a refreshing water table where you sink into nourishment. And you keep growing down into the earth, through the crust of the earth, through the mantle of molten rock, down into soft darkness, down into a hot core of the earth. Feel that heat, feel that warmth that sustains you. Draw the energy you need from it. Draw upon the history and knowledge of all who have drawn upon that energy before you. And maybe extend your gratitude to the earth if that feels appropriate. Slowly retrace your taproot, back through the mantle of molten rock, back through the crust of the earth, back through the layers of rock and sand and water that sustain you, back through the topsoil and community of roots of sustaining life forces that live in reciprocal ecological communities. Back to you, back to where you're seated in your Eden, surrounded by an ecological community, surrounded by plant friends. Back to your body on a chair, on the ground, in your room, or your backyard, or your house. Take a deep breath with me. A deep breath in, and let it all out. One more deep breath in, and out. And when you feel ready, wiggle your toes, your fingers, and come into awareness of your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you for holding that space with me. I hope you felt the nourishment of the earth in that moment and continue to throughout the rest of your day. I want to jump into a little bit of a discussion about harvesting. To start out with, last week I ended the class with a little bit of a challenge for you to harvest some medicinal plants in your backyard, in your neighborhood, and we talked a little bit about urban harvesting and how the safest place to harvest might actually be other people's gardens, and how that's kind of like a weird growing edge and social construct that's difficult to pass, and how it's a really cool opportunity to think of land as this communal resource, and maybe even use that as an opportunity to build community with your neighbors and ask them if you can take different herbs from their garden. So I'm really curious to see how that went for you all and to see if anyone did harvest herbs or didn't harvest herbs. So I'm actually going to put us in, or I'm going to put myself in gallery view. And I would love if I could just like maybe get some twinkle fingers in the screen if you harvested one or more medicinal plants this week. So I did, but did anyone else? Some people, cool. Some twinkle fingers if this is your first time harvesting plants. A room full of experts, awesome, awesome. If you met any neighbors during this time? No, okay, what was time? If you dried your cuttings. Nice, so hopefully we'll all have some dried plant cuttings to work with today. So we are gonna have another breakout session right now for 5 minutes, just so you have a chance to discuss with each other what you harvested, where you harvested, what you're hopeful to harvest in the future maybe, and what you thought about harvesting from land that you don't currently reside on. And potentially that was other people's gardens, maybe it wasn't, maybe you were just harvesting from your garden. But I'm really curious what this experience was like for you and what it brought up. So we're just going to have 5 minutes to talk with each other about that. So Sasha is going to break us out into groups of 3 right now.
Anastasia, do you want to be in a breakout room?
And Tessa and Natalie, did a pop-up
I'm
appear on your
cool.
screen
I'm
asking
good.
you to join a
I
breakout?
didn't actually, that's a question for Tessa too.
I'm happy to join a breakout group if that's easy.
Sure.
I'm not feeling super awesome in like group discussion, so
Great. Natalie, if you can hear me, I invited you to a breakout room. And there should be something, you are in breakout room 5, and there should be something that pops up for you.
Wow, I can't believe it's already 2:24.
Time flies. So Sasha, there is a way to change the settings so that people don't have to accept the invitation. They just get put in that breakout room automatically.
Nice.
You should be able to see that. Breakout room options little pop-up that is only the host can see.
Okay. Where do I find that? Do you know? Is it in the toolbar or is it in Zoom itself?
It's in the little pop-up, the like breakout rooms manager pop-up.
I'm looking at it.
And there's also a way to like make the rooms be automatically timed in there too. And that's also where you can change it from being like 60 seconds to come back to being less than that. I feel like 60 seconds it's too long because then some people will come back right away and then it's like, you know,
Yeah.
there's that weird lag.
I'm in the breakout room section thing, and I'm not seeing options, so I'm just kind of looking around for it.
How you doing, Ren?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, my partner just left the house, so I'm home alone, and it's such a rare thing.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm going to try and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
This is the start of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, whenever I'm in the house alone, it's like a rare moment and I just like frolic around the house. I'm like, space to myself.
I usually like clean the house like obsessively when nobody else is here.
That's fair.
It brings me joy, so.
I'm glad. Yeah, I gotta follow that joy.
Ren, what's the timing for this breakout? What time would you like me to end?
Part of me wants to just like give people another minute and then bring them back, which I know is shorter than 5 minutes, but I am a little nervous about timing, and so I would love.
Okay, I'm not finding the options right now. So when I close all the rooms, it'll give people a minute. So I'll wait until 2:28, and then they'll have like the 60 seconds. Does that sound okay?
That sounds
Well, you want to just broadcast a message to them saying that they have a minute left.
And Ren, I feel like if you're running over a couple minutes, that's okay. Maybe just at 3 o'clock, you can just acknowledge like, hey, I know this is our scheduled stop time. If you need to leave, totally fine. We'll be wrapping up in the next couple minutes.
Cool. Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Great.
Or like at closer to 3, but a little bit before, you can just sort of give the warning that.
Totally. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, because I no need to feel rushed.
Cool. Yeah, people can come and go, and I will be here.
Where do people have to be? I don't know. Maybe people have somewhere to be. I don't know.
It's true. Maybe.
Jesse, did you remove Natalie?
I think they just left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was strange. She wasn't responding to anything. So I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, okay, I'm going to close the rooms.
Great. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope that conversation allowed you to explore what it's like harvesting from land as like a communal resource. And if anything that was like really interesting brought up in your conversation, I'd love to see it in the chat just to hear where you're all at. We're kind of going to jump into a little bit of a discussion about plants as medicine. So last week we talked about a few different ways that plants are medicinal, and this week we're going to focus on the medicinal properties that we can leverage due to their chemical composition, which is usually utilized in like oils or ingestion or topical treatments, infusions, etc. So I am a trained scientist, and I'm wondering if anyone else here is really like rationally oriented or logic-based or scientifically trained also. Can I have twinkle fingers? So some people, totally, yeah. So maybe this is true for you and maybe not, but for me, being immersed and trained in academia and this like sort of like ivory tower science meant that it took a lot of mental shifts for me mental shifts in how I thought about biology and medicine to come to terms with how herbal medicine was like interacting with my body and my system. So we're going to kind of start with like a little bit of a compare, contrast, and mind shifts around modern medicine and herbal medicine. So I'm going to share my screen with y'all really quickly once I figure out how to do that. Alrighty, present. Great, so back to herbal medicine part 2. So plants as medicine. Something that I've thought about, and maybe you agree and maybe you disagree, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but I sort of think about modern medicine from this really reductionist knowledge standpoint, right? You're like really thinking about how each individual cell is interacting with the medicine that you're putting in it. And it's also kind of based in a little bit of control of the body, right? You're controlling how it interacts with the environment. If you have an infection, you're going to get antibiotics, and you're going to help the body like manage that infection. But when we're thinking about herbal medicine, we're thinking more about like systems knowledge and how humans as living systems are interacting with plants as living systems. And it's based in a lot of like support of the body. So we could think about how ginger is infecting cellular inflammation, or we could think about how ginger is making us feel holistically. And maybe we're taking elderberry tincture because it's cold and flu season, but we're not necessarily taking it because we think it's going to automatically cure our cold, or that's not a direct comparison to an infection, but it's kind of how I've been thinking about it in my brain. All this to say though is that plants are still a part of modern medicine, right? Because before there was this modern medicine and all these pharmaceutical drugs, it was only herbal medicine. And we see this in a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, and plant derivatives make up 25% of the available pharmaceutical drugs on the market. For example, Taxol is derived from Pacific yew, and that's used to treat cancer. And then codeine, which is derived from opium poppy, helps relieve pain and reduce cough. And then something that I found really interesting was that in China, herbal medicine played a really big role in the strategy to contain SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, which was sort of like the precursor to COVID. So still really relevant to how people are being treated on a really large scale today. So even though we're thinking about herbal medicine and modern medicine in certainly somewhat different like formats, we can still track herbal medicine and how it's being used. I usually think about modern medicine and all these modern drugs going through all these trials and clinical treatments and getting approved by the FDA, but we still do those clinical trials with herbal medicine. And we have been doing them for years and years and years because people are constantly taking them and writing down how they feel. And you're kind of doing trials in communities and on these really large scales of how people are using these plants as medicine. But we also do it in the lab too. So for example, clinical studies have shown that ginger extracts affect the cellular inflammatory process to reduce pain and inflammation, and is therefore used in arthritis patients pretty often. And then sometimes plants work almost better as these whole compounds rather than these like tiny little things that are extracted. And that's what makes herbal medicine so holistic and effective. So an example of this is when we think about cat's claw and how it boosts immunity. Researchers tried to like extract the individual compounds that were boosting immunity, but they found that when they took these compounds apart rather than just leaving them together, it didn't work as efficiently. So sometimes it's the plant as a whole that's helping our bodies feel better. So last week, I kind of talked about the ways that I think plants are medicinal. I think when we traditionally think about herbal medicine, we're thinking about the properties that are medicinal due to their chemical composition. And then being in nature, being a medicine to relax our nervous system, and then exploring physical touch. So these are like the three ways that I think about medicinal herbs. But herbal professionals usually agree that even though they have different interactions with plants, because plants aren't just like a drug that's encapsulated, they're a living thing that grow differently and in different areas, but they generally agree that herbs help eliminate waste from the body, promote healing through vitamin and mineral content that help the body reestablish proper form and function. And then the combination of these two things just boosts the body's overall energy and well-being. So this is how I've thought about herbal medicine. It's just this detoxification process and bringing in these new vitamins and minerals. So I'm going to kind of dive into like the ways that I've organized herbal medicine in my own brain. So welcome to a deep dive into Ren's brain. But I started out by thinking about how we use plants as medicine, right? So we use them topically in tinctures and bath oils and chewing up the leaves and putting it on cuts. And we use them internally. We use culinary oils that can be infused with herbal herbs, and we drink teas and tinctures, and food is culinary herbalism. And then we also use herbs aromatically when we use smudges to cleanse a space, or we use a bath oil and the residue is left on our skin and we can smell it throughout the day, or even through a dream pillow that keeps us present at night. And I know I just talked about sort of the topically and internally forms of plant medicine and how we can think about these like comparing and contrasting herbal medicine and modern medicine, and those are largely the topical and internal treatments. But I want to take a step back and look at the aromatic and aromatherapy aspects of this for a second. So when we think about aromatic herbs, we're kind of thinking about spiritual healing, right? And that's just as important as the bodily healing. And something that I learned when I was doing a lot of my research was that our primate ancestors, like chimpanzees, use aromatic herbs in similar ways that we do. So they use them for greetings, just like we do. Just like you would greet a partner or a friend with roses, or even maybe your mom because it's Mother's Day coming up. Chimpanzees and apes do the same sort of thing. And that's because smell is this really powerful sense. It's uncensored by the human brain, and it brings us into the present moment. And I also want to use this moment to connect back to our Jewish roots, because frankincense, myrtle, and myrrh were these scents that were used to prepare a space for worship. And especially in the first and second temple, these were like the 3 scents that they used before worshiping. And I also, just like a fun side tangent, learned that the Hebrew word for frankincense is levonah, which is the same Hebrew word for moon. And that's because frankincense is this beautiful white creamy color, and one of the goats on Urban Adama's farm is named Levona because she was born under a full moon, and so that's just kind of like a cool connection tie in. But back to the spirituality, the smell like connects our seen and unseen worlds, which is why it's so powerful for preparing for worship and just in general when we're thinking about prayer and our spirituality. Sorry, give me a second. And then we also ingest a lot of these aromatic herbs. So just because we're smelling them doesn't mean we're not also taking them in. And this whole sort of herbalism practice is this big Venn diagram, in my mind particularly, about what we're ingesting and what we're putting on our skin and what we're smelling, because we can still ingest the ones that smell really good, and we can still put on our skin and smell a lot of the herbs that we're using. And when we're ingesting these aromatic herbs, they're affecting our mood a lot of times, and they're adjusting the internal tensions in our body. So that's pretty cool. And because this is backyard herbal medicine, and I kind of wanted to like focus on these ideas that you could do in your own home with not a lot of materials, something I've been really intrigued by recently has been a dream pillow. And that's something I'm planning on making with a lot of my dried herbs right now. I had bought this like muslin cloth thing that I'm going to put my herbs into, but I think if you don't have one of those, you can just use like an old t-shirt if you wanted to sew it up. And then you can put in any sort of choice of herb, mugwort being like the traditional dream pillow herb, since it has a lot of ties to the dream world. But this is like a really cool idea for like staying present in the dream world and connecting those seen and unseen worlds. So the next sort of easily accessible medicine that I'm going to talk about is oils. So oils are something that you'll probably have in your home as is now. And there are 2 types that we generally think about when we think about medicine making. We think about culinary oils and the ones that you eat, and then wellness and beauty oils, which I condense down into bath oils because that is how I use them. And when we think about culinary oils, we're thinking about the best way to, or the best medium to be infusing your herbs and their medicinal properties into this like carrier oil is generally olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil. And generally any oil that you eat will work, but these are 3 of my personal favorites, and generally some of the ones that you might have around the house at the moment. And then if you're making a culinary oil, you really make sure that you're using dried herbs, because botulism is this microorganism that really thrives in anaerobic environments. So environments like oil that don't have a lot of air. So you just want to be really careful, since you are ingesting this oil, that you're using only dried herbs in the oil. And then you can use anything that tastes or smells good, but all of these herbs that I've listed here have medicinal properties, right? So ginger like relaxes the gastrointestinal system and helps things move through. And oregano helps you relieve like gas and tension that's stored up. And rosemary is really cleansing. So all these things taste good, but food in general is just medicine. So it's a really cool way to explore this culinary herbalism tie-in that we have. And then bath oils, and this one is so much fun because anything that you've harvested in the last week is probably good for bath oil. So I prefer to use lighter oils like grapeseed and almond and sesame and jojoba oil, but that's generally because I find that olive oil feels really thick and heavy on my skin. That being said, I only have olive oil, so I will be using olive oil in my oils. And then you can use fresh or dried herbs in your bath oils because you're gonna let it infuse for probably like a week or 2. but then you're going to strain it and you're not going to eat it. So it's likely that it will still keep and it'll still be okay to be put in your bath. Some ideas for things to put in your bath oil are calendula, which is good for your skin, plantain leaf, which encourages tissue renewal and is kind of everywhere, so you should be able to find it. Chickweed leaf, which is really soothing for the skin. Rosemary, really cleansing. Lavender, calming. And then there are a bunch of different ways that you can infuse your oils. You can do a solar infusion, which is basically just putting the oil in the sun for a week or two and shaking it every day. A lunar infusion, which, you know, similar but with the moon, putting it in the path of moonlight and swirling it every once in a while. You can double boil your oils, and this is like especially good, I think, for cooking oils too. So how you would double boil anything, putting some water in a pot and then putting your glass container with your oil and herbs and letting that simmer. And this is nice because it's so much of a shorter time period, where the solar and lunar infusions are going to be a week or two. The double boiler infusion is only going to be like an hour. And then the folk method, which I thought was kind of fun, is that you just put this oil in a brown paper bag, and that just kind of heats it up slightly, and so that encourages the infusion process. So the whole idea with oils is that the medicinal properties from the plant get put into this oil that you can then use. So you're just going to put your herbs in a sterile glass jar, cover it with oil, use the infusion method of your choice, strain the oil to remove the herbs, and store in a cool, dark place. So I have some ingredients with me here today, and we're going to do a little quick demo. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Great. Sorry, give me a second. So these are things that I collected today. We have some rose here, some rosemary, and I have saved some jam jars from the past that I usually use for leftovers, but I've cleaned really well, so I'm just going to put my herbs in here. And sorry, a second. So I'm going to use just like some rosemary. I don't know if you can see me because I can't see myself. Okay, so rosemary, I'm just going to shove it at the bottom. And then I decided to use some chickweed, so put that in there too. And then I got some roses that I'm just going to put in there. And I could take the leaves off, and I don't think I'm going to. Maybe I will for this one. And just put those in there. And then I also got some jasmine flowers that I think will just make it smell really nice. So these are things that I'm just kind of shoving down there in my oils. And then I have my big olive oil from Trader Joe's. And just gonna fill it up like an inch over the herbs. Dun, dun, dun. And there you have it. So just making sure that the herbs are covered, and the rose petals are floating a little bit, but I think that is okay. And then I cut out this like square parchment paper that I'm just gonna put over the top of it before I put my lid on. So that is what mine looks like. Really fast and easy. And I'm going to actually do a lunar infusion because the moon is like goes right over my window when I sleep and is like constantly in my eyes, so I know where it goes at night. And so I'm gonna put my jar right there at night and infuse it for a few weeks, and then I'm just gonna shake it every few days. And when I was in the fellowship for Herbalism, we actually had an herbalism class where we made similar bath oils. And because everyone flew home, none of them took their bath oils with them. So I accumulated like 5 people's bath oils. And I have one with me here today. This is the only one I brought, but there are a bunch of them. And the reason I brought this one is because someone made their oil but did not take the herbs out of it. So I was like, what a great demonstrating moment for straining our herbs. And it's hard to say if this one will still be good, but it still smells good. And so that is a good sign and we're not eating it. So great sign also there. So this is my setup for straining my herbs. I have just like another jam jar here, and then a funnel and some cheesecloth that I'm going to put over the funnel so that the herbs don't stay in there. So yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to pour this in. This is going to strain really slowly, but once it gets to the bottom, something I'm going to do is just like squeeze this bag of herbs, which is going to make my hands really oily and going to be hard to interact with my computer afterwards. But so just straining these guys, and it does still smell really good, which is a great sign. And something that I was reading was that as long as like the herbs are still in the sunlight, which is what I have kept doing, that the oil won't go rancid. So that is my hope. So this is kind of what my like herb bag looks like now, my little cheesecloth. And we have about this much oil, which is cool. So yeah, that is my basic demo for making your bath oils. And I'm gonna use that maybe in my bath tonight. Who's to say? Who knows? Only time will tell. But I really want to open the space up for questions, because bath oils and dream pillows are just like such a small glimpse into the world of what like herbalism is. We have tinctures and vinegars and syrups and so many different things that you can do. And I am not an expert in any of it, but we do have some experts on the call. Sasha is really good at herbalism and Jessie has a lot of experience, and so does Sonia. So if you have any questions, I would love for you to put them in the chat and we can all sort of brainstorm some answers together. But in the meantime, I'm going to put up this link that has all my information from what I made the class with. So that has like a link to all my resources from this class and also all my resources from last class. So there's some cool recipes in there and such that I recommend you check out. But we have a question from Tess. Well, first we have a hot tip from Sasha, which is oil and nuts is more likely to go rancid if you change their temperature. So if you store something in the room temperature, keep it there. If you store it in the fridge, continue to keep even after using. Did not know that. Great thing to learn. Okay, how do you tell if oil is rancid? I think if it smells bad is my general guess, but I would love to hear other people's pro tips. Or I also like, if there's any gunk in there, like that wasn't looking too good, I wouldn't use it. But I'm sure there's a more like scientific way of looking at this, so I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. And what are some other uses for bath oil? Well, I generally use it as like a way to like calm down, right? We use like that aromatherapy, like the lavender will calm you down and the rosemary will like sort of like invite this like cleansing sense. Or when we were actually making these in the fellowship, Rivka, I think, brought in like mustard seed and powder, so to like help if you were sick, like sweat out whatever's happening to you. So I think like sort of just like affecting your mood and also like what's happening inside your body at the time, but also just makes your skin really soft. So that's a good one too. Do we have any other thoughts or questions? We are coming up on our time, and so while we're like maybe compiling thoughts or questions, if you have any more, I do want to leave you with some like reflection questions for when you leave this space, because this was just like an intro, and I just kind of wanted to like get you sort of started and situated and basically enlivened by this idea of herbal medicine. So I have some journal prompts / questions to like leave this class with. So what are you curious about? How is this, or what has this inspired you to do or make? How has this impacted your view on your power within the care of your own health? What do you want your herbal medicine practice to look like? What parts of your body do you want to support through herbalism? And how are you going to share your knowledge, resources, and powers with others? So just some thoughts. And I can copy and paste that. Oh, Sasha's already putting it in the chat. Thanks, Sasha. Roxanne, do you have a question? Do you want to say it out loud?
Well, I just wanted to say that I really like using fractionated coconut oil because it's very thin. It's not so oily. It absorbs much more easily. I use that for my my bottles of essential oils. That's the base I use.
Oh, cool. Nice. Thank you. We'll try that.
I wanted to offer, just to Tessa's question directly, one of the nice things about using herbal remedies versus chemical ones is that often, not always, right, but often the materials that you're using are safe to ingest, at least in small doses. And again, you should always look up what you're working with because it depends, right? But as with all herbal medicine, like when you're looking at whether your oils are rancid or your medicine has gone bad, you have to just use all 5 of your senses. And what's helpful is to always have like a little bit of whatever it is that maybe your carrier oil or whatever it is nearby as this kind of reference point. But you can tell by smell, you can tell by taste, you can tell by, as Ren mentioned, like the cloudiness or the consistency of it. But oil is also a preservative, a natural preservative. So what's helpful and convenient to think about is that often my experience is that the medicine will just lose its potency before it like fully goes bad, in the way that we think of like other foods going bad.
Thanks, Sasha. That was very helpful. Are there any other questions or thoughts or comments? Because if not, I think Sasha wanted to share, or Jesse wanted to share a end of class survey that would be lovely if y'all could fill out so we know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd want in future programs, etc. So, oh, there it is. Survey Monkey, love them. Yeah, well, thank you all so much for being here. And I'll stick around if anyone has any other lingering thoughts or questions, but really appreciate you just being in this space and learning with me and being so kind and open and participatory. Yes, please share your projects. Would love to see that. All right. Well, thank you all, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, you did it. Ooh.
It looks like she needed a little bit of help.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead.
Awesome.
Jesse and I got stuck in the children's song circle Zoom meeting earlier because Olive was just being so charming and was just like, I know another song. This is what I'm doing. Blah, 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 blah. And the 3 of us just talked for like, a good 5 minutes afterwards. And I certainly didn't have the heart to like prematurely cut her off.
Oh my God.
I didn't feel stuck. I felt delighted.
Love that.
I felt that I was like, oh, I can't leave.
Yes.
Katie's life must be wild.
Yeah, and she lives with like her nephew too, right?
She lives with her twins, like her twin sister.
And then her twin sister has a kid, or
Uh-huh.
a couple kids. Wow.
I don't know how many kids, but she has kids.
Wow. Exciting stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna stop recording.